This is Akashvani. Radioscope, the national science magazine. Good evening, listeners, and welcome to this edition of National Science Magazine, Radioscope. Science is not just a collection of information and knowledge, but also a reliable process by which we learn about all that is naturally present in the universe. Science is different from many other ways of learning because of the way it is done. Science relies on testing ideas with evidence gathered from the natural world. Listeners, in this edition of the National Science Magazine, we delve into some important and useful topics, into happenings around us pertaining to the natural world, health and environment. Be with us. Meghalaya, the abode of clouds, is one of the most exquisite northeastern states of India. Blessed with untouched natural beauty like rivers, waterfalls, pines and majestic forests, Meghalaya is also home to various species of plants and animals. Did you know that Meghalaya harbors the highest bat diversity in the country? Well, India has a total of 450 species of mammals, out of which bats alone account for 132, and the state of Meghalaya itself has 67 species. That is 51% of total bat species in the country. Recently, in 2022, Meghalaya discovered another 2 new species of bamboo-dwelling bats: the Meghalaya thick-thumbed bat and the bat with a sticky disc. These 2 new species were recorded in Meghalaya's Lylad area near the Nongkhelem Wildlife Sanctuary. A team of scientists from the Zoological Survey of India, Shillong, along with a few European scientists, discovered these 2 very small bats, one with a thick thumb bright orange coloured and the other having beige coloured sticky disc. Dr. Uttam Saikia, a scientist who led to this discovery, spoke to us and unveiled his journey while explaining about the uniqueness of these species of bats. Let us listen now to Dr. Uttam Saikia. Talking to him is Dr. Bonnie Nichols.
We are privileged to have the scientist Dr. Uttam Saikia, the man behind this exclusive discovery. Let us listen to him as he unveils the adventurous journey that led to the discovery of these thick-thumb bats and also some bamboo-dwelling bats. So, sir, we would like to hear your story.
It's a pleasure to be here. It started actually in 2020 after the first wave of this COVID-19 pandemic. We got bored in office and we decided we should go for a short field survey. And we decided to go to Nongkhelem Wildlife Sanctuary in Reboi district of Meghalaya. We went there for a short period, and since we do not have permission for collecting any specimen from inside the sanctuary, we decided to do some samplings in the nearby forest area. As usual, I did some mist knittings and herb trapping, and very surprisingly, I got some very interesting specimens from there, bat specimens. I got 2 very beautiful orange-colored small bats, and upon seeing them, I instantly realized that this is something going to be very interesting. Then the next moment, I also got some small bats, which I initially thought pipistrelle, very commonly occurring Indian pygmy pipistrelle, or could be Coromandel pipistrelle. But eventually, I have seen something very interesting characters. Then I collected 2 specimens also. We took them to our laboratory. For the next 6 months or so, we intensively studied those specimens, compared them with similar species from Southeast Asia with the help of our collaborators in the Natural History Museum of Geneva and also from the Hungarian Natural History Museum in Budapest. And the first one turned out to be a very interesting species called disc-footed bat. Of course, this is known from other parts of Southeast Asia like Thailand, Laopedia, Vietnam, and also one record from central Myanmar. This is a very specialized bamboo-dwelling bat called disc-footed bat, and this was the first report of a disc-footed bat from India and South Asia as a whole. Because it lives inside the bamboo internodes. So it has got some special adaptations, like it has got a very flattened skull, so it can enter inside the bamboo through the very thin, very slits in the bamboo. And more interestingly, it has got a very oval-shaped sticky disc on the feet, so that it can attach to the inner side of the smooth bamboo walls. So it is called a bamboo-dwelling disc-footed bat, which we have reported from the place in 2021. Then subsequently, when we studied the other two specimens, we found out that this is going to be something very interesting, because it has got a very, very thick thumb. There is a flashy pad on the thumb. And I have compared the specimens again with closely related species and in Southeast Asia. And these specimens were lodged in different natural history museums throughout the world. And through my colleagues, I could do that comparison. And after due comparisons and intensive studies, we came out that this is a new species of bats. And in honor of Meghalaya state, which was celebrating its 50th statehood, we coined it Meghalaya thick thumb bat, or Gliscropus meghalenus. And it was duly published in the Zoological journal, Zootaxa, in 2000.
Indeed, an honor to our state.
Yes. And this is also the first bat species described from India in the last 10 years.
So it was interesting to hear that, from boredom it turned out to be something so exciting and so adventurous.
Yeah.
So sir, how was this new species described, and what really makes it unique from the other species of bats?
Actually, for an untrained eyes, they look all similar. It is very similar to a bat called Coromandel pipistrelle. It's a quite common bat throughout Northeast India, and it's the morphological features, size, everything is very similar to this Coromandel pipistrelle. And initially, I thought of releasing these bats because I thought it could be Coromandel pipistrelle. Then I suddenly noticed that yes, it has got a very thick thumb. There is a kind of flashy outgrowth on the thumb pad, which is a particular adaptation for dwelling inside bamboos or something inside the tree holes. Then I thought it's not going to be a pipistrelle, it's going to be something different. Then I collected the specimens, studied them very intensively, their cranial characters, dental characters, their bacular bones, so many things. And we have also compared with very closely related species found in Southeast Asia. Then we came to the conclusion that this is not related to anything to do with pipistrelle. This is a completely new species under the genus Gliscropus.
What about the sticky disc?
It doesn't have a sticky disc as such, unlike the disputed bat. It has got a thumb pad. Thumb pad means it's a flashy outgrowth on the thumb, which probably also helps it to stick to bamboo internodes. So we do not know much about the ecology of this species yet, because it has not been studied very extensively, but it looks like it's a bamboo dwelling bat also.
So is it endemic to Meghalaya?
Yes, so far it's endemic because this has only been reported from Meghalaya so far. So we can call it endemic to Meghalaya, endemic to India.
And now arriving at a very interesting query on the ecological importance of bats, or in other words, how do bats contribute to the biodiversity?
Okay, this is a very interesting question actually. Bats are ecologically and economically very important animals. They are known to pollinate plants. They are also effective agents of biological pest control. The insectivorous bats, which eats a large number of bugs, mosquitoes, crickets, etc. And many of these are either agriculture pest or disease vector. There is a study in US, very recent study, and they have concluded that insectivorous bats saves the US farmers annually at least $23 billion, which is a huge number, translating to something like 1.8 crore Indian rupees. We don't have any hard data for India as such, but I presume the numbers will be humongous. Then secondly, they are known to pollinate at least 500 species of plants throughout the world. And many of these species of plants are economically important species like wild banana, guava, mango, then agave, mohua, etc. Many more plants. So really, bats are very economically important, both ecologically and economically important.
They act as pest control and...
Yes, pest control, biological pest control, pollination. So many services they are giving to the ecosystem and economy.
Well, from that interesting discovery, we now switch to some important events observed internationally. The International Day of Yoga 2023 was observed worldwide on the 21st of June. This day is being observed since 2015, a result of the efforts made by the Indian Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. The 21st of June was selected for observing this day as it is the longest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere and also has special significance in other parts of the world. In a bid to spread awareness about the importance and benefits of yoga, the 21st of June is celebrated as International Yoga Day every year since then, with different themes for each year. This year, the theme focuses on yoga and humanity. In our studio now, listeners, we have Dr. Neeta Maheseker, Director of Northeastern Institute of Ayurveda and Homoeopathy, Shillong, who speaks on the significance of yoga.
Now we see it's a cutthroat competitive world. Everybody is in the race and everybody wants to rush up. Our lifestyle is also very much hectic and most of them do experience stress because of this. The understanding of yoga, mainly Chitta Vritti Nirodha, that means connectivity, as I told before also, that mainly your mental well-being is as important as your body. People understand it as postural, that is asana, physical exercise, but that gives relaxation and flexibility to the body. But mind is equally important because many a times nowadays we see more deaths because of cardiac arrest, hemorrhages. That means the persons experiencing their day-to-day routine do not have a control over their mind. So to address this, most important is yoga, not as a physical posture, but it is also a breathing exercise which gives good oxygenation to the body. And most important is mental satisfaction. Loss of satisfaction, loss of performing gives more of stress and that gives more illness.
Further, I see that the theme of this year's International Yoga Day is Yoga and Humanity. So, how yoga brings together our mental and physical well-being?
Like mental well-being is not that we just eat well, sleep well and perform well. Yoga has something to do with the calmness of the mind, the body, the soul, the contentment, the satisfaction, which is missing nowadays. So that satisfaction and accepting destiny, accepting what you get is the best as a person, as in life, is missing. That means yoga leads to a bit of spirituality, which if understood well, then the human relations can go on well. So let me elaborate on this.
Yes,
there
ma'am,
are
please.
8 angas of yoga. Yoga is just understood as physical breathing, pranayama, and physical exercise, the postures, the asanas, and some part of meditation. But it is not so. For humanity, human relations to come into context, here we have yama, niyama. That means abstinence from some things. Niyam is rules and regulations to be followed. Then comes pranayam. Then comes the postures. Then comes pratyahar. That means moral ethics. So yoga is not only this, they teach you moral ethics codes, what is to be restricted, what is to be taken, and what is yours, that is only moral. The integrity, even if no one is seeing, your sincerity, your honesty, everything pumped together. So once that comes, the human relations will improve. There will not be any grudges, there won't be any selfishness. So all these can be eradicated once you understand the meaning of yoga in total. That has to be taught in total. Then comes samadhi, dhyan, dharana, that is concentration and meditation. So in that, once you know your limitations, what is mine will come to me, the rest is not mine. So you won't have that grudge and that wrong competitiveness to acquire it, where peace is lost. Now we see wars going on across the world. You see unrest. So this grabbing and all is well understood with yoga. That improves the human relationship. That imbibes moral ethics so that nobody crosses lines. And that is for peace.
Another important event this year is the celebration of International Year of Millet. Millets have been an integral part of our diet for centuries. In addition to a plethora of health benefits, millets are also good for the environment with low water and input requirements. With an aim to create awareness and increase production and consumption of millets, the UN, at the behest of the Government of India, declared 2023 as the International Year of Millets. Dr. Kamini Paia Biam, a scientist with the Indian Council for Agricultural Research, Shillong, talked about the promotion of millet cultivation.
Firstly, the UN has already started promoting the cultivation of millets by declaring 2023 as the International Year of Millets. It has already brought to the attention of the population the importance of this crop, because international observance, whether it be a day, weeks, years, or even decades, they tended to garner mass attention. So now people who are not aware of what millets are will have already begun the research. Then secondly, to boost millet production and consumption, the union government must adopt a multi-pronged strategy in collaboration with state governments as well as private sector through use of quality seeds, product development, and stepping up of procurement of nutri-cereals. For example, the ICAR Indian Institute of Millet Research, Hyderabad, has already been announced as a center of excellence and will be currently working with state-specific millet missions, Odisha, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Telangana and Chhattisgarh. All this with a focus on production, processing, consumption, marketing and inclusion of millets in government schemes. And thirdly, by raising awareness among the people of the following aspects of millets, that is, the sustainable cultivation of millets can support climate-resilient agriculture, the sustainable production of millets can fight hunger and contribute to food security and nutrition, and millet farming is totally eco-friendly, as it requires minimal or no irrigation facilities or external inputs and has a negligible carbon footprint. And lastly, and most importantly, by taking legislative actions to promote their cultivation and innovative methods for harvest and post-harvest processes, because lack of post-harvest knowledge, value addition and marketing is what prevents most farmers from starting anything new.
Lastly and most importantly, how can we promote awareness on the consumption of millets?
See, the entire country should put millets on the menu in public places such as schools and hospitals, because they can be an important part of a healthy diet. After all, I feel they should start somewhere. I'm not saying they should impose it upon us to consume millets, but at least it will get the people to think what they are if they see them in the menu. My personal view is that everyone has a role to play on how to promote millets consumption and cultivation. We all need to learn about millets, including their nutritional benefits, and create a growing demand for them by including them in our diets. Then only together we can contribute to the sustainable transformation of agri-food systems and unleash the potential of millets for human well-being, food systems, poverty alleviation, and the adaptation of agriculture to climate change.
All cereals are a rich source of carbohydrates, but millets also come with more proteins. Mrs. Barbara Thangkhiew, a dietitian, explained why we should include millets in our daily diet.
Millet is a good source of protein, fiber, key vitamins, and minerals. The potential health benefits of millet include protecting cardiovascular health, preventing the onset of diabetes, helping people achieve and maintain a healthy weight, and managing inflammation in the gut. Millet also aid in breast milk production, that is, during pregnancy and lactation period, women are advised to consume ragi in high amount to increase the production of breast milk in their body. Millets are suitable for kids allergic or intolerant to wheat, and also it is rich in calcium, which helps in bones formation in young children and also to prevent them from other bone infection like rickets and osteomalacia and osteoporosis in adults.
Yes, listeners, millets, the yesteryear staple diet for a majority of people in the semi-arid regions of Asia, especially India, could also be the climate-resilient future crop. Millets can counter many of the adverse effects of climate change better than any other crop. And now, talking about the environment. World Environment Day, held annually on the 5th of June, brings together millions of people from across the globe, engaging them in efforts to protect and restore the earth. In 1972, the UN General Assembly designated the 5th of June as World Environment Day. The first celebration under the slogan, "Only One Earth," took place in 1973. In the following years, World Environment Day developed as a platform to raise awareness on the environmental problems such as air pollution, plastic pollution, sustainable consumption, and so on. This year, the World Environment Day focuses on plastic pollution under the campaign Beat Plastic Pollution. Listeners, more than 400 million tons of plastic is produced every year worldwide, half of which is designed to be used only once. Known as single-use plastic, this poses a big threat to the environment as well as to us humans. Ms. Rosemary Lyngdoh, Assistant Professor on Environmental Science, while talking to us said,
"This is actually an environmental crisis. As you see, from birds to fish to other marine organisms, all are killed by plastics every year. Almost 700 species of organisms, including endangered ones, are known to be affected by plastics. Almost every species of seabirds, they eat plastic. What is happening is that these aquatic animals like fish, seals, sea turtles, they mistake plastic. They consume these plastic thinking that they are food. These plastic, they get accumulated in their stomach and then they start starving. They cannot consume the real food anymore. So what happens most of the time? They starve and then they die, or they drown because of these plastic and then they die. Now what is happening, like whales, these bigger marine animals like whales, sharks, and again other marine animals, they are found to be entangled in these plastics. So they choke to death. So what happens when these animals, they get affected? The entire ecosystem gets affected. The food chain gets affected.
Indeed.
And studies have found that the main pathway of human exposure to these microplastics, it has been identified as gastrointestinal ingestion. It means these microplastic, we are consuming it through these plastic containers where food are actually packed in it. So when we are taking those packaged food, you are taking in microplastic. That is how it is entering our gastrointestinal system. Then we inhale them because these microplastic, they are so small in size that they are easily suspended in the air. So we inhale and we call that pulmonary inhalation. And there is also a condition called dermal infiltration. Dermal infiltration, it means that microplastic entering the tissues of living organism, maybe aquatic organism, through their skin, because these microplastic, they are there inside the water, they are broken from the bigger size plastic and they enter the tissue of these aquatic animals, and that is how we take them as seafood. So these microplastic, now it has been found out through research and studies that it is reaching our drinking water, it is accumulating the food chain, and they release toxic chemicals that may cause diseases, which are again very serious kind of diseases like chronic inflammation, immune system disruption, we have neurotoxicity condition, and the transfer of these microplastic to other tissues have potentially led to cancer. And a lot of these toxic chemicals have resulted, like some specific toxic chemicals that are released by these plastic called the endocrine disrupting chemicals. Why? Because they actually affect the endocrine system of living organism. They are linked to infertility, obesity, okay, and it can also lead to breast cancer, thyroid problem, then increased risk of cardiovascular diseases and even stroke.
To conclude my session, to conclude this interview, I would really like to ask you, how can we beat plastic pollution?
So you see, the most sustainable way to beat plastic pollution is to switch to the most famous letter that we call the 3 R's of sustainability. That is to reduce, reuse and recycle. So first of all, see, as individual, we need to be responsible consumers. That is one thing. We need to reduce unnecessary purchase that contain one-time plastic packaging. We need to buy food products that has containers that can be reused, not the single-use plastic, that can be reused, that can be refilled. See, instead of the single-use plastic, we could say glass, aluminum products, they are more sustainable to prevent plastic pollution. Why? Because these glass and aluminum products, of course, their manufacturing will always have some harm in the environment, but they are recyclable. So the amount of toxicity that a plastic can produce, it is much, much lesser if we use the recyclable materials. Like, for example, we can use reusable fabric bags if you want to go for fruit and vegetable marketing, and reusable containers and boxes for meat, fish, etc. Then oil, milk, vinegar, these liquids. We can utilize refillable bottles, jars for these substances, liquid substances. If we, as consumers, we continuously try to find reusable way instead of plastic, we can definitely reduce. See, together we can always beat plastic pollution. So let us make this theme, this year's theme, Beat Plastic Pollution, as a theme of World Environment Day. Let us make this possible by individually understanding the problem related to plastic, and let us be responsible by saying no to one-time use plastic, because it is important that we need to be environmentally educated and understand the impact. Together, definitely we can come to a solution to this plastic problem.
कसम ये खाए रे टिक 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 प्लास्टिक टिक ना पाए रे अगर सुन लो जज़्ब लेना हम तो बम ये फट जाएगा कि बहती सी नदियां का ये पानी रुक जाएगा टिक 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 कसम ये खाए रे टिक 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 प्लास्टिक टिक ना पाए रे टिक 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 कसम ये खाए रे टिक 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 प्लास्टिक टिक ना पाए.
Well, listeners, that's about all in this edition of Radioscope. The program was scripted by Carolyn Marbanyang and your narrator was Krishna Das Gupta. A contribution of Akashvani Shillong. It came to you from the studios of Akashvani Delhi. So till we meet again, it's bye-bye and good night.